Hey, good morning, everyone. It's 9 o'clock. I see there are still a few people joining us, but if they missed the introduction, it's probably okay. They're more interested in what Simon is going to show you today. So I would like us to start punctually because, yeah, we're all busy, so don't want to run too late. So I'm just going to start from a introduction perspective. Firstly, I just want to welcome everyone to our Infinity webinar. We are extremely excited to show you what the Infinity Suite can do and the ability of this extension object to just help you achieve and do even more within your Qlik Sense environment, whether you are using your on-prem or your client managed, or whether you are using your cloud or SaaS environment. Just by means of introduction, I'm just going to quickly share my screen just to introduce everyone. So I've already done the welcome. There will be a recording. So we are recording the message of the webinar. So I'm hoping everyone is okay with that. So we also will just distribute a recording afterwards. Will also be on our website. So if you know of anyone who would be interested or someone who could not attend, please just share the links with them. Just from oh, gosh, now my screen is frozen. Sorry about that. I'm just going to share again. Just from an introduction perspective, I think most of you guys do know me. My name is Charlene Smith, and I'm the Sales Director at Insight Consulting. And with me today, I am very excited to have the Infinity team. I have Simon Kirby. He's the Enterprise Solutions Director at Infinity, and he will be showing you the Infinity Suite today. So he'll be taking you through the demo and just showing you the whole suite of Infinity and what it is capable of. And then I'm very happy to have George with us. George is the Senior Business Analyst at SOILL. They are a Insight Consulting customer, and he has very kindly offered to share his story with everyone, how they implemented Infinity, or actually starting with the why they wanted Infinity, what challenges they experienced, and how they are currently using Infinity within SOILL, mostly for their budgeting process. And then last but not least, I don't have his picture up here, but we also have Richard Lance. He's the Business Development Director of Infinity. He's going to keep an eye on the chat for us. So I would like you to please, can we have this an interactive session? Please, if you have any questions or comments, put it in the chat room. And if you have any questions, then we'll just put that in the Q&A section. Richard will be monitoring that, and right at the end, Richard will be facilitating a Q&A session, just to make sure that we answer all your questions and we hear what you need. But from there, I'm just going to hand over to Simon first. So Simon, like I said, Simon is going to take you through the Infinity Suite, explain you from the beginning how Infinity works and how you can use it within your business. Over to you, Simon.
Excellent. Thank you, Charlene. So hi, everybody. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. So thank you for having us, Charlene. It's great to be involved with you and your fantastic team. So myself and my colleague Richard is actually sitting at the other end of this table. We're in a place in Dubai at the moment. We're here for the Qlik Day today in Dubai. So we had a fantastic event yesterday. I don't imagine many of you were there, if at all, but if you were there, it was great to see you. If not, then we look forward to coming to see you soon. Good. So I'm going to kind of take you through a little bit about Infinity, our products, and then dive into a demo. And then I'll hand over to George, and then George will talk about his particular use case in his company. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and if someone could just shout when it comes through and make sure that you're seeing some slides. Is that there?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Good. All right. So let's start a little bit about who are we. Infinity is a technology company. We only make technology that runs on top of Qlik Sense. By Qlik Sense, I mean Qlik Sense on premise, or as Qlik call it, client managed, and Qlik Sense Cloud in Qlik Cloud. Okay, so the three products that we have are Infinity Forms, Flow, and Mold. We'll touch mostly on Forms today. That's the big one. That's the thing that I guess 99% of our customers are interested in. Infinity Forms is a data entry capability. It lets you enter data into Qlik Sense and then save that data that you've entered. Sometimes in the world of Qlik, we call it a writeback extension, but if you're not familiar with that term writeback, think of it as data entry, okay? The next one is Infinity Flow. Infinity Flow lets you build process maps, flow charts, organizational diagrams, and we'll show you some of those as well. We'll touch on that. It's a simpler product. It's a standard Qlik extension, but it's a very nice extension and combines very well with Infinity Forms. When you bring the two together, you can do some very interesting things. The third product we have is Infinity Mole. Mole is different. It's actually a connector, and what it does is it can read unstructured data. By unstructured data, what we mean is text-based documents. So things like a PDF or a Word document. And what it will do is it will actually pull the data into a table and let you load that table into Qlik. And then, of course, in Qlik, you can then analyze the contents of those documents. So, for example, when you combine Infinity Forms and the ability to upload a file into a form, and we'll show you that in a moment, and Infinity Mole, you can then analyze the contents of the documents that you've uploaded into a form. So we'll show you some of that in just a moment. I just want to jump into a couple of very quick use cases in terms of, we've touched on that. Let's talk about this one. So what do we think that the main use cases are for Infinity? They generally fall into 4 areas. So I'll touch on these very, very quickly. The first one is what we call writeback. This is where you've got some data, you've put it into a table or you put it into Qlik, and you want to add some comments, some commentary, some context, maybe a status, explain the movements in some numbers, okay? So it's quite straightforward. You enter some information, you hit the save button, and then that information is saved and held, and it can then be used, seen in the Qlik app, obviously, but you can use it in other Qlik apps or within the same one, all right? The second one, and this is very, very popular, is some kind of planning. Now, typically planning is normally financial. So there's a lot of customers that use Infinity to do financial planning. And honestly, Richard, the number of conversations we had with people yesterday about wanting to do planning in Qlik, because they put the data from their general ledger or their ERP system into Qlik Sense. They analyze the data, but they want to add some information. They want to add some context. And that's when you can do that kind of thing inside Infinity. So some of the use cases include demand forecasting, running some kind of what if analysis, maybe doing some kind of pricing, or even we're speaking to an actuary yesterday from an insurance company using Infinity and Qlik to do that kind of thing. Process transformation, this is where we start to get radical, guys. We can actually do something really different with Qlik. Some of our customers have built unusual things inside Qlik Sense using Infinity. One of our customers has built a logistics tracking solution. Another customer in America uses it as a cataloging solution, and it's just begun developing a CRM, would you believe? A CRM actually inside Qlik Sense with Infinity. And then finally, if you're running on-prem, to a lesser degree on Qlik Cloud, but on-prem, you're often having to do development operations, something like section access, reload task chaining, license management. Those activities are often done with spreadsheets, but you don't need spreadsheets when you have Infinity. You can do that work inside Qlik Sense and with Infinity. So I'm going to stop with the slides. I'm going to switch now over to a demo, and let's go to this one first. So what I wanted to do to begin with is actually explain to you the different kinds of forms that we have with Infinity Forms. And then we'll touch a little bit on flow, and then we'll explain Mole. So when you get Infinity Forms, we give you, it used to be 4, but as of 3 weeks ago, we now have 5 different kinds of form. So what I'll do is quickly walk you through each one of those 5 to give you an idea of what they can do. So on this particular sheet that we're looking at, we have a number of standard Qlik objects. They are here in the middle. This one here, on the top right, is our first Infinity Form. So let's make that bigger, and then we can focus in on this. Okay. So this is a standard Infinity table form. We call this Infinity Forms General, but what it does is it combines data from your data model, and then you can add in what we call editable fields. This one and this one are editable in this case. All right. So what we're doing is we're looking at a form that says, how many employees do we want to hire? We have 5 at the moment, but we need to hire a certain number. So at the moment, the reason this one is pink is because there's some validation on it. And it says you're only really allowed to hire up to 5. That's the budget for this particular role. So let's change that down to 4. Okay, oops, excuse me. Let's change that to 4. All right, so by doing that, a few things happen. The first thing is I can see this little edit pencil here that tells me that I'm changing this record. This little dot here appears to tell me the cell I'm working on, and then the save button is highlighted. So if I hit the save button, that's saved. And you can see how quick that was. It was literally less than 1 second, okay? And that happens regardless of the volume of data, because you're just writing back and changing that record, the thing that you've just changed. If I were to change this back from, say, a 4 to a 6, our validation rule kicks in again and says, you shouldn't do more than this. When you apply validation, by the way, you can either have a rule that says a warning, this is just a warning, I can still hit save and it won't stop me, or I can make it into a block where it actually will prevent me from entering this data, and save won't even be an option. All right. So you have these things that you can do. So let's save that. If we wanted to change the status of the hiring process, at the moment this is green, we could change it to red or amber or green. We also have a wide range of different fields that you can add. They include long form text, numbers, currencies, traffic lights, gauges, lots and lots of different things that you can add into here. Okay, so that's form number 1. Before we go into form number 2, I just want to explain something that's really quite important. One of the things about this this concept of editing a record, we can do something called record level locking. So at the moment, I've changed this record. Let me change that from a 4 to a 6, for example. And because I've made that change, no one else can try and change it. So to prove that point, let me just duplicate this tab. And what you'll see here is I'm pretending now to be 2 different users. You'll see 2 icons with me and me. Horrible thought, I know, but just for this moment, there'll be 2 of me. So what you'll see is that if I actually hover over this cell 4, which I've changed, you can see the padlock. And if I scroll to the side, you'll also see the padlock. So that record is being changed by the other me. All right. So therefore, that record is locked and I can't affect it until I go back to here and we'll hit the save button. That's committed. And then we'll go back to the other version. And now you can see, I can see that and I can change it if I want to. All right. Quite an important point. The reason for this is to avoid data corruption. What you really don't want when you're entering data is to have multiple users working on the same sheet and then actually hitting save all at the same time and causing problems all over the place. So this is a very elegant way of making sure that that doesn't happen. So let me just shut that tab down. We don't want 2 of those. That's good. So let's jump over to form number 2. So we can actually see the first example from clicking that little button here. I clicked on these 2 arrows here. This opens what we call the single record form. So this is a more linear top-down kind of form where you can see things from top to bottom. So you might imagine we're used to these kinds of forms. We fill them in all the time. It could be a survey, it might be a data capture for, I don't know, some government process that you're looking to fill in, whatever, all right? But this is a very traditional looking form. But in this case, we can actually, what we're doing here is we're calling a master visualization. So this is a form created and saved as a master visualization, and we've actually calling it from the button within this record. We could also have it sit standalone on the sheet. So if I go to a different sheet like this one, and we will select one employee, let's select Anne. And this is also, the middle one here is also a single record form, okay? This form looks slightly different. The buttons are slightly different. That's because we have different themes that you can apply to Infinity Forms. So the themes let you actually change color and things like that. So we're building out some of these nice themes to let you customize the look and feel of the forms. So this single record view here, all of the data is related to one person, in this case, Anne Keaton. What we're really doing is linking the data to the dimension of employee. So if I change the employee from Anne to say Bob, what you'll see is all of the information on this sheet now relates to Bob. So this information here, and also this gives me a chance to introduce form number 3, which is this one. This one here is what we call our dimension note. So I can add more notes here if I want to. All right. So once you've done that, again, you hit save that record is saved almost straight away. All right. So you've got your table view, your single record view, your dimension note, this one here. Now, the fourth kind of form is slightly different. If we just go back to this one, you can actually have a conversation inside Qlik Sense about the things that you're looking at. And we do this by creating something called Infinity Forms comments. So this form lets me create a new comment. So in here, I can say a new comment, and then I can just hit save. All right. And that will then appear here. So it's a little bit like Microsoft Teams, like a small chat forum, if you like, operating inside Qlik. So it lets you have a discussion about something. If I were to apply some filters, so let's say we were to remove Bob, and we'll choose some of these up here, if I can. There we are, 1, 2, and 3. So we'll apply that filter. And then what we'll do is we'll go back to here and we'll add a new comment. And we'll see we're capturing some selections. So do new comment 2. And when we hit save, you'll see that what we've done is we've actually captured the selections here. If I actually shut this down and then take away the filters, go back into our comment, and then I can apply those selections, it will automatically apply the selections that I was looking at when I made that comment. I could also add snapshots of these charts if I wanted to. So you can do some really nice things with comments. Let me just change my zoom level slightly. Good. So we've talked about 4 types of form. We've talked about the table view, single record view, the dimension note, the commentary, the comments thing. And the final one that we released about 3 weeks ago, I'm going to lose track of this, Richard, by the time I'm going to have to say recently, is basically this one. Now, this is what we call Infinity Forms planning. Now, we were asked a number of times over the last year or two, including from Charlene's team, what customers really want is the ability to actually do hierarchical planning, top down, bottom up planning that lets you enter a number into a hierarchy and aggregate up or distribute down based on some kind of ruling. All right. So we've developed this. So if I were to change this cell here, where we've got the record John McCarthy, and I've changed that and I put let's put in a couple of 1s. All right. The moment I hit the save button, it automatically calculates up, in this case, because I'm at the bottom of the hierarchy. If I change the HR area here from 3,000 to 300,000, it will aggregate up and distribute down. All right. So you can see that happening automatically. So this is built specifically for financial planning, where you can say, we've got a product. We want to be able to say, I want to work out the value or the quantity of that product that I'm going to sell. And therefore, we want to be able to see if I change something, what will happen? What will that do? All right. So that's the 5th type of form called Infinity Forms planning. All right. So those are our forms. What I want to do is now is quickly show you flow. So on this particular sheet, we've got an example of an organization chart. This has been developed with Infinity Flow. And in fact, these icons are also Infinity Flow objects. And these are actually helping us to navigate around the app. So if I click one of these buttons, I can jump from sheet to sheet. All right. So what you can do is you can build flow charts. You can analyze those flow charts. And if we get time, then I'll quickly show you a different demo app where we can do that. But before we do, I just want to jump to the kinds of use cases, one of the popular things that you can do with an Infinity Form. So this one is letting us analyze people that are applying for a role. We've got some job positions which have been entered in by people that are working with this form. We've got their expected salary, the city that they work in. We've actually then uploaded a file. So in this case, we're uploading their CV. If you're American, they say resume. Okay. But what you can do is choose a file. Doesn't matter. We can choose anything that we like. We can upload that file into here and we can hit save, and that data will be saved. You can see we've got the save button. We've also got an update button. Now, the update button will save the data that you enter, but it will also reload the app. And if any of you are developers right now, you might be thinking, why on earth would I let my end users reload an app? Because if I reload the app, it will reload all of the data that's in the data model. But we'll get to this in a moment, but we've got lots of choices and options for you when it comes to reloading, which means that you can only reload the things that people have entered, or everything, or somewhere in between. All right. So we'll touch on that in a moment. You'll see that there are other buttons here. We've got new rows. We can add a new row. We can delete rows. We can amend rows, all of the things you'd expect to do in a database. We can also show and hide columns. So if I click the skills button, we can see these blue columns have appeared. If I click the blue button again, they disappear. If I click the process button, you'll see these purple columns appear. If I click the process button, they disappear. All right. We can also export the data if we want to. We can actually open a change log. So this will pop up a table. Actually, this is a standard Qlik Sense table, but it's actually showing you, actually, sorry, that's an Infinity table, but that's showing you what was changed, who did it, when did they do it, and so on, which is a good point because everything that people do with Infinity is tracked. So we track all of the changes. So one of the things that you can see here is who was it? Oh, excuse me. Let's just reload the app. What's happened there? Okay, I think it's a Wi-Fi problem in this apartment that we're in. There we go. It's come back. Good, good. Okay. So you can see that we're capturing all of the information about who made the change and what was the change date and when did that happen. So on this sheet, I can also explain to you a little bit about Infinity Mole and what it's doing. So we've uploaded these files into the form. When we've hit the update button, the app has been reloaded. So during the reload process, these documents are being broken down and the contents are being put into a table, and that table is being loaded into the Qlik Sense data model. What we've then done is built a filter box down here. Each word is taken from these documents. So every word in this filter box is taken from these documents. So if I wanted to search this list of applicants and say which one of them had a particular skill, let's say we're looking for someone that can do Java programming. All right. So we'll choose Java. And you'll see that our word chart here is just showing the word Java. And we've just got Paul Rubik. Of the 6 people that were in that list, we're down to 1. So if we open Paul's Word document, we'll just have a quick look at this. And then we'll be able to see, we just say enable editing, control find, and we'll search for the word Java. And, oops, not that, do that. And you'll see Java here, Java here, Java here. All right, so you get the idea that when you combine Infinity Forms with Infinity Mole, you can start to do some really nice kinds of analysis. Right, now, the next question, I've just got another sort of few minutes here before I hand over, is how does all of this work? Everyone says to us, well, that's great, but how does it work? How do we get the data back into the app? Am I writing back to the actual source system? So let's actually kind of cover those points because those are quite key in terms of how this works. So let's explain to you quite simply, how does Infinity Forms work? So this is a picture, a diagram that explains how Infinity Forms works. And this is an example of it running on-premise or Qlik client managed. Okay. So this blue box over here on the right represents your Qlik Sense server, and it could be a multi-node or a single node. It doesn't matter. We can run on both. Okay. You have your Qlik engine. You have your Qlik apps running on the engine, and then the Forms extension talks to the Qlik apps. Okay. So with Infinity Forms, you have a front end and you have a back end. All right. So the front end, the extension, is loaded into something called the Qlik Management Console. For those of you that are admins and developers, you'll know what that means. So you load the front end extension into the QMC and users interact with those forms. Then this is where the magic happens. This area over here is where we actually run the Infinity Forms backend, and this is where we save the data. Okay. So the Forms backend is a really small, elegant Java service that runs on the same Windows server as your Qlik Sense environment. Okay, it's not a server, it's a service, which is brilliant because you can stop it and start it like any other Windows service. The magic here is the two-way arrows. There is a two-way dialogue happening between the backend Java service and the Forms extensions that operate across multiple apps. So the service is listening to these extensions all of the time and constantly looking for changes. So the moment you hit save, it will then automatically talk to the service and then will write the data into either a file storage, which is this yellow box here, and the files are either XML files or QVD, the Qlik files, QVD, or you can write the data into any SQL database that you can think of, pretty much. SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, those kinds of things. Of course, once you've saved the data, what you can then do is reload it back in. And that's what these arrows going back into the engine mean. So you can either do a full reload of the data, or you can do a partial reload of the data, and that lets you load only the data that's been entered back into the engine. So if you're observant, you might also see SSE as well. And there's a bridge that goes from our engine, the forms backend, directly to the Qlik engine. So what does this mean? Some of you may remember that about 5 or 6 years ago, Qlik developed a connector called the Server-Side Extension Advanced Analytics Connector. And it was designed to let Qlik talk to R or Python. So we actually use that same SSE connector to actually allow you to build a connection directly between your backend data and a KPI object or a bar chart object or any other Qlik object that actually uses some special functions that we have written. So you might be used to creating a KPI using the Qlik function sum or the count function. Well, we've got some of our own. So they're called a forms.sum or forms.count, for example. And when you use our functions and you link them to a Qlik KPI object, that KPI will update the very second you hit save without reloading the app. So I'm just going to say that again, just so it goes in. If you've got an object, a Qlik object powered by our functions, SSE functions, and you save the data, then the KPIs will instantly change. So imagine doing some kind of what if analysis or some scenarios that you're looking to run. You enter data into a form, you hit the save button, and your other objects on your Qlik sheet update automatically, and you didn't reload the app. That is extremely useful and very, very powerful. Okay. So that's basically how this works on-prem. How does this work on Qlik Cloud? So if you're running on Qlik Cloud, it works pretty much exactly the same. The only difference is that Qlik obviously won't let us run our service on their environment. So we run it on our own environment, and this is run on AWS at the moment. We can still let you store the data and we can host that data for you if you're happy to do that. And many customers do. We can host that as XML files, or you can write out to, again, any SQL database of your choosing. And these include cloud-based SQL databases like Snowflake, Redshift, those kinds of things. So yeah, it works exactly the same way on Qlik Cloud, except that we just manage the back end. If you have strong security needs or you need to actually deploy on both Qlik Cloud and on premise, we can do both as well. So we can actually run what we call a hybrid deployment, and we can then operate across pretty much any set of platforms that you're running. All right. So I'm conscious that we're nearly half past the hour, and I want to give George 10 minutes or so to go through his piece. So I'm going to stop sharing, and George, I'll hand over to you, and then we'll come to some Q&A after you've done your bit. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Simon. And good morning, everyone. I'll just quickly share on my side. Let's do this. Okay. So this is me. I'm George Turck, and we work for Southern Oil, or SOILL as we call it shortly. We're basically based in the Western Cape, in Swellendam to be precise. Our headquarters are here. I'm sitting there at the moment. And got a couple of branches across the country as well. We've been using Qlik now for, well, I think it's about 12 years now. So we've actually been walking quite a long road with first Qlik View turned into Qlik Sense. Pretty new on the Infinity train, but very excited about what we've been able to do so far, and obviously what we'll be able to do in the future. Maybe just a bit of background about the company itself. So we do edible oils, specifically canola oil. So we press canola seed, get the oil and the meal from it. Oil is obviously sold in edible oils market, and the feed goes to typically milk farming, etc. Protein feed, basically. The complex part about Southern Oil, or what makes it a bit tricky to manage and to control the environment, is we do the whole supply chain. So it's not just the press. We basically buy the seed straight from the farmers. We've got an agricultural department that support the farmers as well. And then from there on, we press, refine, bottle the oil itself. We've got our own sales and marketing teams, a distribution, logistics team, own a couple of trucks, our own fleet, and then all the supporting services around it as well. A full-time lab that runs 24/7. Obviously, me and my team, the IT guys, HR, the whole shebang, everything that basically makes the company run. But as a result, we've got a pretty big team of managers. We've got about 30 plus guys that needs to take care of the business and run all these different departments. So yes, that's basically where we started using Inphinity. So to give you an idea, the process that I just want to describe before we started using it. So this falls in the planning use case that Simon was referring to, and a bit of the writeback. So we used to do budgeting this way. So there's a bit of a flow chart of how the process used to work. So the challenges that we had is we can't do our budget over just like a week or two. It's a pretty lengthy process. So we had to extend it to run over about 2 months, preferably more, but we ended up in 2 months because it's just so much effort to try and maintain it. So typically at the beginning of January, we've got a Qlik model that does all the data calculations for us. So it combines all our information or all our financial information into some nice views and tables that we can just export. Then we used to export it. The finance team then prepares all those different sets of data. And like I said, 30 plus sets of data that they had to prepare in different Excel files. And as you probably have heard, the whole world runs on Excel, and our company is unfortunately no different. So we basically prepare all these files and then we send them to all the department heads. So each of them has got his own little file and he starts doing his own budget. At the end of the month, now we've got another extra month of data that we have available that we want to provide to these guys. But because it's an Excel file, this obviously doesn't update automatically. So the department heads need to send all their files back to finance, who needs to consolidate again, then get the end of January financials out of the Qlik model, push all of that back into the Excel file, split it up again, and send it back to all the department heads. So that's basically to just get the latest information through to them. At the end of February, when the budget's supposed to be done, basically everything goes back to finance. They consolidate the whole deal, push everything back into Qlik model. Well, we put it in Excel file, the Qlik model picks it up. And then at the end, after the budget's been finished, my team, the analyst guys, needs to take a lot of that data and then export it and push that into other systems. We've got quite a few operational systems that make use of the budget. Things like an approval system where we can verify all the costs that we want to do against the budget for the year, or our planning systems, MRP, etc. So yes, as you can see, very lengthy process. Quite a few issues with this as well. I'll go over that in a second. So at the beginning of this year, Insight Consulting suggested we take a look at Inphinity, and we did. And we literally implemented it in like 2 weeks. So it was quite a bit of a rush, but it was January already. We had to get the budgets finished, but we were able to get it done. And we turned this whole process into this. That was basically it. As simple as it looks. So we've got a little orange block there at the back is what I put it there to show the other systems. So we've got our Qlik model integrating with other systems automatically. It's the data basically writes to SQL, and then we just pick it up and use it in other systems. So no manual intervention required. And the department heads basically just work directly in the Qlik model. So we set up a few tables for them. We can show all the information to them, and they can make their decisions and enter their values and all the data they need to process and figure out and make decisions on, and basically just type it back in. And that is it. At the end of February, we're basically finished. So a couple of things I just want to point out. Problems that we had before, problems that we solved using Inphinity in a sense. So obviously the most glaring obvious one is the time issue, or the time we used to spend on this, trying to consolidate Excel files, sending it back and forth. Basically, there's a whole list of blue blocks in the middle that we were able to get rid of. which made it a lot simpler. But there's a couple of other ones as well. So, for instance, we had a lot of duplication or things falling through the cracks. So we've got one department budgeting for something that he thinks is his responsibility. In the meantime, somebody else is budgeting for it as well. Because it's separate files, there's no way to see that the other guy is already doing it. Or alternatively, Bob thinks that Sam is doing it, and Sam thinks that Bob is doing it, and now nobody's doing it. So we had quite a few issues like that, and obviously a single model that we can just divide between them makes those kind of overlaps or gaps obvious, and makes it impossible for a person to do the overlaps. Second obvious issue is outdated information. Because we have to extract the data from Qlik into Excel, send it to somebody, it gets stuck. That's basically as far as it goes. So in February, when they send it back, only then do they see the latest information again. Now that we've got a live model that basically keeps updating hourly, literally, whenever he logs in to continue working on his budget for the coming year, he can see all the latest information up to the point where he's at that specific point in time. And then obviously the duplication into other systems, accuracy, human error, etc. All of that used to also play a bit of a role, where now we've got direct integration, no issues, no human intervention required. So all of those issues were resolved, pretty simply. I just put two of the tables in the screenshot, not very spectacular. It was basically straight up data tables. So the guys basically enter their information on a single table where they can define what it's for, put the totals per month, which rolls up into more of a summary view where they can see the total for the coming year per account, per cost center, compared to last year's actuals. And then we've got a couple of high-level summary views and graphs and things that we were able to put together for them, where they can absolutely just, in a single view, be able to see where they're at, how far they're at, how far the budget has been completed, those kind of things. Just a couple of things I wanted to point out, some tricks that we had to pull to make it work, but what the system was able to do for us. So the one is we were able to restrict the access. So now we've got a single model with 30 managers that needs to work in it. And obviously that comes with a couple of risks as well. People should not be seeing each other's things if it's sensitive information. They should not be able to change each other's information. We've got the history log that Simon referred to, but obviously somebody needs to know what to look for in order to find it there. So the simpler answer was literally just to set it up in a way that each user logs into the model, same model, but you only see your own cost center, or the cost centers apply to you. So that actually made a pretty huge difference. Second one was the monthly rollover. It was a kind of trigger that we set up. So let's say by the end of December, we've got all the actuals for March to December. Financial year runs from March to Feb. So we've got everything from March to December, but we don't have anything for January and February yet. So we were able to then set a switch that basically shows the user one of three options. The one is it can show you the budget for January and February that we put in earlier in the previous year for the coming year. So you can see what did you budget last year for this January and February. You can overwrite those values at any point in time because you obviously know better now. It's now 10 months later. You've got a better idea of what is actually coming. And then at the end of January, we can switch it to the third option, which is basically stop showing last year's budget or the physical overrides, change it to the actuals for January. And then at the end of February, again, change February to the actuals of that month. So we were able to keep moving the months along and give the managers all the tools they need to be able to either use what's already there or make their own overrides to change what they know is going to happen and just make the process a lot easier for themselves. We had to add a manual additions kind of action. So the whole model was driven out of the view, the point of view of previous costs. And then you obviously have to assume we're going to have to make those costs again. So basically start with those. But then if you know there's a new cost that's going to be added in the coming year, you should be able to add a new line, new cost center, new account, whatever combination is required. The Qlik integration. So basically being able to write the data into all our other Qlik models. So they had to put in a bit of work to help us with that. And then the external integration, writing all the data into a SQL table. And then obviously we had to do some development on our other systems to just have the systems read it now from this new point of view. All right. And I think that is basically my story. So yes, we've set a lot of effort, a lot of time. In future, we're definitely looking at the writeback use cases. We've got a lot of operational processes where we have people writing things into Excel files that needs to be processed again, which will obviously make it a lot easier if we can just write it straight into the model where the results are being shown both to the users and to the managers. And I need to speak to the guys about the planning form. That'll be really great for our sales forecasting. But yeah, that's basically what we're going to look at in the coming year, the next few months. Yeah, that's it from my side. Yeah, over to you, Richard.
Great. Thank you so much, George. Very impressive. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you for setting us up and the opportunity for us, to talk. So, do we have any experience, any challenges with adoption of Infinity and new budgeting process, especially the Excel lovers?
It's true. We all love a bit of Excel.
Yes. No, that is always a pretty big challenge. People are set in their ways, and as I said before, we all understand and know Excel and are very comfortable with it. So trying to get the people to start working directly in a different model that they don't know and not comfortable with obviously was a bit of a challenge, and it's always going to be. What made it significantly easier is the fact that you can export a table and do all your calculations like you normally would have in Excel. If you have a fixed amount and you want to divide it by 12 to split it across the year, you put in your formula, divide by 12, drag it across all the blocks, done. And then literally just drag or highlight the information you want to put back into Qlik Sense, into the Infinity table, and just copy and paste it. And that's basically it. So when we were able to show them that, it made things a lot easier. And then obviously when they started using it and realizing that the benefits of having live information of how simple the environment is to use, it basically took a week or two, and then everybody was on board and we were pretty happy.
George, from an end user perspective, do you think they now find the process easier from their point of view? Obviously, it's easier for the benefit of the finance team, but do the end users like it?
Yes. Like I said, it took a bit of time for them to buy into it, a week or two. But there are so many other benefits to them as well. So it's not just the time and the effort saved. Like I said, it's the whole process of having to do a bunch of rework because something was wrong or because somebody else already did it or because I didn't do it. And now you're rushed at the end of February. The fact that you can see your information live, a transaction is done, and literally you go into the model and it's there. So yes, no, definitely they're happy to have moved over, and we haven't had a single case where somebody is so stuck in their ways that they want to return to the old way it used to be. Everybody's happy with what we've turned into. Definitely.
Excellent. Oh, that's really good. We've got a customer here in the UK that does something similar, achieved in a slightly different way. But what they do is throughout their financial year, they have an Infinity table that they record all of the projects that they do across all of the branches in the UK. And they've got a table, Infinity table, with something like 3,000 projects in it. And what they'll do is they'll track the actual revenue that's coming for the projects they completed by month. So column 1 will be month, January, February. But then what they'll do is they'll predict what they think they're going to win. So it's like a rolling forecast. And when they close a month, that month gets locked down. And then basically you can't change it anymore. But you can see just in one table, January, February, March. And as you move through the year, the months become locked down with the actuals, but you can see the rolling forecast going forward, it's just wonderful to see. And they can calculate the column totals at the top of the table, so you can clearly see what you sold, but what you think you're going to sell. And you can do that. And then you can, of course, apply filters. So if you say, I only want to look at one branch or one region or one type of project, all of those things can be applied as well. And that's just standard Qlik capability, right? But you're applying it to Infinity as well, which is a really, really nice use case. But I love what you've done. The fact that you said you did that in 2 weeks, congratulations. That's a phenomenal result. Well done. Really good.
Got a bit less sleep than we should have, but we made it work.
Yeah, no, really good, really good. And it's fantastic to hear that it's working as well. That's what we want, right? We want to see customers achieving real value. And yeah, the number, I said, as Richard and I found yesterday, the number of people that are using Excel to do this, and there's so much pain in doing this in Excel. Yeah, it's just great to hear that you're actually able to achieve that kind of value. So guys, if there's any other questions that you've got, then yeah, please let us know. Okay, so Charlene, I'm not seeing any others. Have we got any in the chat maybe, or?
We've obviously answered all their questions, or they're too shy, one of those two.
There's one
Guys,
point in the chat that says, please demonstrate how mole works. Okay. Mole is a connector, so it's hard to explain how it, show you how it works, but I could show you something. So bear with me one moment. I'll try something here. So let's go back into, oops, sorry, wrong one. Let's go into there. So, right. No, I'm in forms. I need to go into, bear with me 1 second. Turn off this. Okay, documentation. The Wi-Fi in here does this every time. You can't reach this page, and then you do it a second time, and it works. There we are. Okay, right. So how does mole work? Okay. Okay, so basically the basic concepts of what Infinity Mole does is, as a connector, what it's doing is actually running a Qlik script that passes the data that it finds in these files. So the actual files that it can read are these ones. So we can read Office files, open Office files, raw text, images. The reason it can read text in images is because Infinity Mole includes optical character recognition, OCR. And as you can see here, what we're doing is we're extracting either the contents or the metadata of the document. All right. What it's then actually doing is it's actually extracting the data that it finds. In this case, it will put it into a table format. So let's say you're looking at something like this word, this information here. Infinity is the first word, mole is the second word, and so on. Our table that will be created after mole has run will put infinity in record 1. Mole will be the next line down in record 2. Is will be the next line down in record 3. All right. So you'll basically have a column, and at the top of that column will say the word word. It will say word. The next column along will tell you the number of instances of those words in the document or the email that you're looking at. Okay, so if the word infinity appears 10 times, you'll see the number 10. The third column along will actually tell you the position of each word. In this case, it's position 1. If we go further down, infinity will probably appear somewhere else. So that might be in position 25 and then maybe 52 and so on. And you'll see those numbers separated by a delimiter. So what you'll then do is have another column that says the location of the file and then the file name. All right. So essentially what you're doing is you're creating a table from these documents that can be loaded into Qlik Sense. And then once the data's in Qlik Sense, then you can analyze it. I'd love to show you how mole actually works in real life, but I actually can't. I don't have a demo that can do that. So, all right. I don't think there's any other questions. No.
Nothing else. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Let's just share our final screen. So yeah, thank you very much for joining our webinar. And if you were too shy to ask a question, or if you think about something later, please feel free to contact any of us. The contact details are on the screen right now. So you can visit our website to learn more, or you can contact us, or just mail us directly. So I would really like to thank you all. I hope you have a lovely Thursday, and I hope to hear from you all soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Charlene.
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Bye.
Thanks, George.
Bye.
Bye.